Okay, well today what we're going to do is we're going to talk about Chapter 1-7, the distributive property. Okay, this is a very important property to talk about because it will help you solve problems mentally as well as a lot of other more complex problems. Okay, so the objective for today is to use a distributive property to simplify expressions. Okay, and again, still on the same standard. So I know I'm getting a little redundant with that, but we're getting close to the end of this chapter, and this is really a lot of the review. Okay, so distributive property is when you multiply a value into a quantity. Okay, a lot of times it's parentheses, so you're going to be multiplying that quantity through. Sometimes you can do distributive property by breaking a quantity up and actually pulling out, or what we call factoring out, and we'll get more into that as we go through. The next term we need to know, or vocabulary, which would be term, a number, a variable, or a product of a number and one or more variables. Okay, so just to give you a couple examples of that right off the bat here. That would be to say like a term, be like 5. 5's a term. We could say y, that's a term. Okay, or a product of a number. So we could say like 2x as a product of a number and a variable. Or you could say 3xy, okay, one or more variables there. Okay, so these are all terms. Okay, and they're going to be separated by addition or subtraction. So it's the product, so no division, no addition, no subtraction. You can't have multiplication though. Okay, distributive property allows you to simplify by multiplying a value into the sum or difference quantity. Okay, so as we go through here, this is what I was talking about, parentheses. So if I want to take this through, I can multiply this a into this quantity. Okay, it's going to multiply into each term. That's the important part. You have to understand it goes to both terms. Okay, but as we go through that, what that's going to give us is a times b gives us ab. A times C gives us AC. Now go left to right from inside the parentheses, and we'll see that in the next example here. Okay, as we write that. Okay, we do the same thing. Sometimes you'll see it in the back side here, and this is where a lot of students get stuck because we're not used to seeing it back here. But the same thing happens. It goes into the B and comes right here to the C. And again, if you write it in order from what's inside parentheses, so it would be A, B plus A, C. Okay, so keep the B out front. That's going to help you in later problems. Here in these minus signs, we'll see why that's important. Okay, so even if it's subtraction, it works the same way. A gets multiplied or distributed through, okay, to each term, and we get A, B, but now there's a minus sign in between, so it becomes minus AC. Okay, and that's why it's important, because it's not a negative B, it's a negative C, so that negative has to be with this term and that term only. Okay, so that's important. Okay, as we go to this next one, we have same process. Okay, get these little arrows going, that'll help you. Draw those arrows on these problems. Okay, and then we get AB, do that AB first. Okay, and then a minus sign in between, AC. This one right here is a lot of times people want to put the AC first, and that's where they mess up. So make sure whatever's in parentheses, you follow the order of that and just multiply the A to each of those terms. Okay, so that's the distributive property with those examples. We'll go through some examples here for each one of these to give you some numbers to look at. Okay, so if we were to say, for example, 4 times 20 plus 6, okay, distribute that through. It goes 4 to 20. Okay, so 4 times 20, we would write it like this, and then we would simplify. We're not going to simplify right now, we're just going to work on getting things in the right place. 4 times 6, so we put 4 times 6. Okay, and same thing. We'll go down here and we'll do another this other example, say 30 minus 2 inside parentheses, and then we have this 7 on the back side here. Okay, and we're going to say the 7 goes in the 30, so it's 7 times 30, and then the 7 goes into the 2. Now again, it's minus in between that, so it's 7 times 2. Okay, and each one of these would be the same as we would go through examples on that. Okay, and we'll get into more examples here in a little bit. Okay, so the next thing we need to know is what these other words are, vocabulary. Constant's the next one. A constant is a term with no variables. So like we used 5 earlier, 5 would be a constant. It never changes. It's always going to be the same. Okay, like x could be different values, so therefore x is not a constant. Constants are just numbers, so like 2. Okay, that's a constant. The coefficient is the number in the term or the numerical factor. Okay, so that means like if we were to put 5x, that's a term, multiplication product, okay, from up here. 5 is the coefficient, it's the numerical factor of this x. Okay, so problem number 1, what is the simplified form? So we're actually going to practice here. Again, let's go up here and draw our arrows. Okay, so as we go through, as we draw our arrows, 3 times x gives us 3x. 3 times 8, okay, and we can write that out, or we can just go ahead and do the math there. Now, look at this term and this term. 3x plus 24. They are not the same, and we'll talk about like terms here in a little bit. They're not like terms, so we can't combine those. Those are done. Okay. Same thing, part B. We're going to take this negative 7. Now this is tricky because there's a negative here, and we're going to multiply that through. Okay. So we're going to take negative 7 times 5b. Well, that means different signs, so it's got to be negative. 35b, so there's the first term. Negative 7 times this negative 4, okay, that's going to give us same sign, so it's a positive now, and a 28. Those are b and then a constant, so there's not like terms, so we'd stop there. Okay, we're going to take a little break there, and we'll come back and do some more problems. So again, if you got any questions, look up on Twitter. Go to my webpage and check that out. If not, we'll come back and we'll look at some more examples.